Indian government last year collected $500 billion in taxes. And yet we don't know any large platforms that solve taxes.
What were the multiple pain points that you saw with filing taxes in India?
10 years back, when I started, only 27 million people were filing taxes in India. Today, roughly 90 million people file their taxes, and it's still just a very small portion of the working age population.
The complications of filing tax returns, is it changing tax regimes, the sheer number of things to deduct?
Taxes are not everyday discussion. It's not a coffee table discussion. It's oftentimes taboo.
According to my math, there's a shortage of CAs compared to the number of tax filers.
About 85 to 90 million people are filing taxes.
So 1 million chartered accountants to 90 million.
Yeah, that's a huge gap.
One of the things that people say to get a good CA is to help get a better refund.
A very iceberg like a problem statement. For the longest amount of time, there was a huge gap in digital tax infrastructure.
More than 50% of the students sitting the CA exam are now young ladies.
True.
Yet, I don't see them building practices.
Rainmatter invests in FinTech startups with the intention of investors doing better with their money, which we believe will also help deepen markets in India. Join us as we speak with the startups and venture capitalists who invest in them about how they are approaching markets, FinTech solutions, in all subsectors of lending, payments, investments, insurance, and infrastructure, as well as their businesses from scratch.
Hello and welcome to another episode of From Scratch, where we talk to founders of fintech companies that Rainmatter has funded. Today we have with us Vishvajit Sonagara of Quicko.
Taxes are not everyday discussion. It's not a coffee table discussion. It's oftentimes taboo. I don't remember ever talking with my parents or my siblings about taxes, right? How much money you make, how much taxes you pay. So at Quicko, what we are trying to do is we are trying to solve taxes. Oftentimes as a founder, when you start in naivety, you start with a very simple problem statement. A lot of problem statements are symmetric, that from the outright you can see the whole problem statement. Taxes are unlike so. They're like iceberg, right? The more you explore, the more they expand. So today we solve taxes for individuals. At the other end, we solve it for large enterprises. But then we also solve for small businesses and tax practitioners. So those are the four cohorts that we are trying to solve taxes for. I oftentimes tell my team, because you have to keep them motivated to solve taxes, right? For examples, today people download hundreds of thousands of P&L from Quicko. People file hundreds of thousands of their income tax returns from Quicko. But at the same time, large enterprises, within Quicko, we also run Sandbox, which is an API platform, and customers make about 1 billion API calls on Sandbox every year to solve all kind of tax problem statements, be it calculating P&L, be it filing TDS returns, be it onboarding a customer, be it doing KYC. So we solve, like I said, taxes to an outsider looks like a very tip of the iceberg problem statement. And that's what I was coming to. So retail consumption is $900 billion. Online e-commerce right now about $180 billion. And with that scale, we know of Flipkarts and Mintras and Amazons. Indian government last year collected $500 billion in taxes. And yet we don't know any large platforms that solve taxes, right? So that's what we are trying to do for India. Everybody talks about digital payment infrastructure. Hopefully, we are trying to build digital tax infrastructure.
What was a problem, the pain point that you saw? Is it just the paperwork, the sheer calculation paperwork that is needed to go and do this? Or was there something else? Like what led you to it? And how big is the problem?
Oftentimes, I think in the hindsight, we romanticize as eureka moments, right? But more often than not, it is not. It's like coming to work every day, showing up, incrementally trying to build something, and eventually you are in it before you know it, right? So for me, it happened like that. While of course, kind of connecting back to my previous avatar, I was a student in States, and then I ended up working there for 7-8 years. So I had to do my taxes on my own. And I saw the growth of some of the tax platforms that I used, starting from where I had to punch in everything to the point when I left, you just give your social security number, it would import pretty much all the data for you, right? So I'd seen that. When I came back to India, I didn't know what to do. So I started tinkering around with, I had worked in FinTech. So if you go to East Coast, you end up working in finance. If you go to West Coast, you end up working in tech. So I went to a school on East Coast. So I ended up working in finance for 8-9 years. So when I moved back, I started building a lot of tools and calculators. Of course, deep down somewhere, I also wanted to build a brokerage because I'd worked at some of the big brokerages. But while I was doing that, I got an opportunity to research each one of those fields, who all are building it, who are the investors, whether there are headwinds or tailwinds in that space. And one area that really piqued my interest was Texas. Nobody was building for Texas. While today everybody's talking about India's story and how we would be middle income economy, this is 10 years back. When I started, only 27 million people were filing taxes in India. Today, roughly 90 million people file their taxes, and it's still just a very small portion of the working age population. So it wasn't a eureka moment. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just started building a lot of these tools, and Texas piqued my interest. And before I knew it, I was building Texas for it.
What is what were the multiple pain points that you saw with filing taxes in India?
Up until 2019, after 47, 48 years of capital markets in India, we only had roughly 1.2 crore, 1.4 crore demat accounts, right? Today, you have 17 crore demat accounts. So there was a catalyst movement where, everybody was home, they had discretionary, they had income, they were not making discretionary expenses, started investing, right? This added to people's income sources. A lot of people started having heterogeneous income sources. A lot of people invested in crypto, financial capital markets. Gig economy has played a huge role over the last several years, right? So over the last 3-4 years, what we thought was the problem statement was to help people file their salary tax returns has completely changed into helping people report their investments, calculate their capital gains, and file their taxes, right? And that's something we have really razor focused on since we raised funds from Zerodha. So in 2019, over a 5-minute conversation and a handshake, which is how Nitin invests, we decided that nobody's solving for people investing into capital markets. We were probably the first startup that Nitin invested outside of capital markets. What we ended up doing is solving taxes for capital market investors. Today we integrate with all the major brokerages. We are right now 2.2 million customers, and we are the second largest tax platform in India. So our focus has been on helping individual investors and traders do their taxes. Now, what are the problem statements for individual investors, traders? Let's talk about it, right? I was talking about headwinds and tailwinds, right? So one of the things about taxes is I jokingly tell my team that government does the advertisement, right? If you go to theaters, if you go watch a TV, government is continuously trying to push, for more people to do their taxes. It's important responsibility. It's a cost of civilization somewhere I heard. I really like that. At the other end, what government continuously is trying to do is through Aadhaar, getting connected to your financial life, collecting more and more data on people, right? So today, even if you make a single transaction, capital markets and crypto market, all of that data is flowing back to income tax department. A lot of people earlier who weren't reporting these incomes now started to get notices, right? So we've razor focused on this audience. You could simply connect your Zerodha account or your Grow account or your Upstocks account, and you can instantaneously import whether you are a small, infrequent investor or you are a high frequency trader. You can import 100 trades or 100,000 trades instantaneously. It calculates your capital gains, your business profession income, and you can file your taxes on Quicko. That's, I think, from outside in, a lot of time people look at us as an individual tax filing platform. But like I said, today we solve taxes for starting from individuals all the way to large enterprises.
Individual tax filing for investors specifically, right? That's the focus that you started with. That's how you got to Zerodha.
Absolutely. And there are a few interesting numbers there.
And investors and traders. I mean, traders have a bigger problem, filing it. But investors should be fairly straightforward, right?
If you ask me, for people like you and I who have been in finance for a long time, but for example, government in last 10 years that I've been running Quicko, income tax department has changed ITR forms 3 or 4 times. Capital gains rates have been changed. They in fact got changed day before this budget, right? So, and oftentimes you have to think about government has to solve it at population scale, right? So they think they are simplifying it, but oftentimes it overcomplicates it for end user, right? For example, introducing grandfather scheme was to help those people who had invested into capital markets before a government introduced taxes on long-term capital gains. So they had to support both the audiences, and that overcomplicates it for end user. Right now, also, what they tried to do was for unlisted and listed, they tried to bring the taxes at parity, but that overcomplicates it for end users, right? So that's something we have heavily focused on. Now, interesting coincidences that there are roughly, like I said, 85 to 90 million tax returns getting filed in India. If we can, subtract all the corporate returns and business returns, it's roughly 75 million income tax returns. What would be your guess? What's the overlap on people investing, trading in India with the number of people filing income tax returns? More than 95%.
Really?
Yeah. So today, what we see on our platform, we file roughly 92% of income tax returns are ITR 2s and 3s and not ITR 1s. So a lot of people who are investing in trading are the people who are salaried, are the people who are running their online practices, they are professionals, they are architects, doctors, tech consultants, designers, right? So when we solve taxes for investor traders, we are not just solving it for investor traders, we are solving it for India. And that has really worked for us.
So that would be in line with what Nitin was saying about the number of tax filers and the number of unique investors are pretty similar.
Pretty close.
Which means we have probably tapped most of the people who can afford to invest. They're probably investing already.
Yeah, depends on which number leads the which number.
That is besides the point, but there is a big overlap.
There is a huge overlap,
yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And that has tremendously worked to our advantage.
So one is the size of the market, which we said about 90 million today, but growing. As India gets richer, there will be more people filing tax returns. So hopefully that will grow. So that's the size of the market. In terms of how you define it, you're saying it's the trader investor population, but actually it's big overlap anyway in terms of everyone earning income. Within that, how many salaried versus how many are self-employed or proprietorship?
Out of 80 million income tax returns, or for Indian audiences, about 8 crore income tax returns, roughly 3.5 to 4 crore are salaried returns. And that is changing really fast. I'll tell you why also. Roughly 1.5 crore ITR 2s, which mostly covers capital gains. Roughly 1 crore ITR 3s, which is business profession income. And roughly 2.5 crore ITR 4s, which is, again, business profession, but a simpler return for smaller businesses.
Can you explain 1, 2, 3, 4? I mean, you just said that.
So there are 4 ITR forms that individuals have to file depending on their income sources. So ITR 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'll break it down for you. So ITR 1 is for salaried individuals. It mostly covers income sources such as salary, house property. Now, house property is if you own a property and you've rented it out, you are probably earning rental income, and that has to be reported in your income tax return. So that's covered under ITR 1. ITR 2 is everything in ITR 1 plus capital gains, right? So if you are investing into capital markets, if you're doing SIPs and mutual funds, and if you've sold any of that, then that accrues capital gains, right? So you have to also pay taxes on your capital gains. So that's covered under ITR 2. ITR 3 is for business profession income. So it also covers everything under ITR 1 and 2 plus business profession income. So if you are
professional income. So if you are
if you are a regular trading, manufacturing business.
What about professions?
So professionals are also covered under ITR 3.
3.
Right? Here we are talking about proprietorship businesses, right? So individuals running businesses. So that's covered under ITR 3. And then ITR 4 is this scheme that government offers to business and profession owners, where if your business and profession size is below a certain limit, then you can file a simpler return. It's called presumptive taxation scheme, and that's ITR 4.
And in terms of again, back to the problem statement, the budget gets announced. Here's the tax slab rates, and here's the, deductions and things like that. And here's the form to file in. Why does the population not do it themselves? Talk me through the complications of filing tax returns. Is it, as you said, grandfathering is one, changing tax regimes, the sheer number of things to deduct? One of the things that people say to get a good CA, is to help get a better refund, to make sure that every single loophole that can be exploited is exploited. Is that the laundry list of sort of reasons why people would want to outsource it to a CA rather than do it themselves?
I would like to believe that's changing, right? So we helped roughly 250,000 people file their taxes, right? The biggest CA firm in India, and Ahmedabad is a kind of a mecca of CAs. It's considered the hotspot of CAs. The largest CA firm, probably with 400, 500 chartered accountant, files 40 to 50,000 income tax returns. So we file 5x more income tax returns than the largest CA firm in India, right? So that's changing. What are some of the challenges, right? Some of the challenges are, for the longest amount of time, there was a huge gap in digital tax infrastructure, right? What do I mean by that? For example, today you are able to make payments using UPI. You are able to open your demat accounts online. There is APIs available from exchanges through which you can post your trades onto exchanges. A lot of this infrastructure is only coming up. For example, GST, which kind of uniformed all the indirect taxes, only came into existence in 2017. The API ecosystem only came into existence in 2018-19, right? Because of lack of digital infrastructure, there haven't been enough online platforms for you to access these kind of services. That's something rapidly changing.
I wanted to address it in two stages. One is why aren't you filing it yourself? Why shouldn't anyone file it themselves? So one is going to an external service provider, being a CA.
Right.
And then I want to get to, maybe there are not enough CAs around, and therefore your platform exists. So I just wanted to address it in two stages. So one is, why should someone not file their own tax returns? And then secondly, why they should file it online.
So I think a lot of this, problem statements, I saw a couple of the podcasts, and oftentimes we talk about India 1, India 2, India 3. Similarly, I also think we have to divide India into, generations and the habits that they have and the way they access services, right? And that is changing very rapidly, right? So a lot of our audience is extremely young. While at the same time, I do get somebody who is an 85-year-old and is trying to do their taxes themselves. A lot of our audience is extremely young. Also, a lot of young audiences extremely mobile, right? They are not in their hometowns. They are probably in Bangalore's and Mumbai's of the places in order to pursue job and career. And they don't have the comfort and access of a family chartered accountant, right? Also, they're extremely tech savvy. They don't like to go and wait in someone's office to do their taxes, right? So that audience oftentimes discover or accesses service by Google searching and going online, right? And that's where platforms like us have found tremendous traction, right? I know it's a small bucket, but when Airbnb started, it was just mom and pops renting out the extra bedroom that children have vacated. Today, most of the property managers are on Airbnb. So that's what we also think is happening with taxes, right? Today, more than 50,000 chartered accountants are using Quicko, right, to do the taxes for their clients. So that's very rapidly changing. So I wouldn't like to just paint a broad brush that taxpayers like to go to just chartered accountants. They also love to come online. It depends on which audience are we looking at.
How many of the tax filers need to see an expert, whether it's a CA or whether it's online? I'm saying not directly filing with the government form. Right. I can go and file it directly as well, right?
Yep.
But most people don't.
Yep.
Probably because government forms suck.
Yep.
I mean, I'm saying it openly.
I didn't say yes there.
Of all the people who need to file their tax returns, how many need to seek expertise of any kind, whether it's a CA or whether it's online? And why do they need to seek expertise?
So we file about 250,000 income tax return, right? And we also offer something called Meet, which is an online tax advisory. And I think those numbers would be helpful to understand how many people actually need assistance, right? So in our case, we end up doing roughly 15,000 to 20,000 online tax advisories. So that's about 7 to 10%. So 7 to 10% of customers who are trying to do their taxes on our platform end up seeking advisory. Let's talk about why people should do it online and themselves, and then what are the reasons why they fall back onto an online tax advisor or an offline tax advisor, right? Like you were saying, the first place you would start is online, and that's how a lot of people look at taxes these days. I think there were not enough platforms. For example, if today you want to invest, there are dozens of platforms, right? But if you want to do your taxes, there are very few platforms where you can go and do your taxes.
But I can do it on a government site. There's no government broker.
So we have this philosophy, right? I think the government's role should be to build infrastructure, to build highways, and not the malls on it. Let the private businesses build those malls because they know how to serve customers, how to tap into the opportunities that a highway avails, right? So government website is there to offer the basic minimum services, right? Today, if you are an investor, good luck filing through government portal, right? While it is there to provide the basic minimum service that government has to promise to all its citizens, it does not deal with a lot of complexities that come along with taxes. It's improving. There are a lot of efforts that we work very closely with the income tax department, and it's improving. They are autofilling a lot of data, so you don't have to manually punch in data and things like that. So number one, there weren't enough apps through which you could do taxes. That's changing. There are platforms like Quicko and other platforms who are now filing substantial number of income tax returns. What that also means is we have taken up those complexities, right? So today, one thing that our customers really like is instead of having to enter data, all they have to do is remember all the sources of their data, and they have to authorize access to Quicko, right? So you would put in OTPs or consent or passwords through which you would log in and give consent to Quicko. We use the India stack in order to get your data. So we pioneered it with Zerodha, right? You can connect your Zerodha account and we'll import all the data. But then now through account aggregator, we go to banks and we get all your bank statements. We go to income tax department and GST department and bring all your data, right? So filing taxes, in fact, has become simpler, right? And that's why a lot of people are succeeding. Like I said, 250,000 people succeeded, ended up filing their taxes on our platform. And a great deal of them were investor trader who had thousands of trades and investments. Now, when would somebody fall back to an online tax advisors, right? Like I said, as more investment avenues became accessible to people, right? More work opportunities became accessible to people. People do have exotic income situations, right? Somebody who is working for a multinational corporations or a startup and has RSUs and ESOPs, and they have had a liquidity event and they access that liquidity. Now, oftentimes that's a landfall of income, right? How do I go and manage my taxes in that case? A lot of people are entrepreneurs and they have income sources from running businesses and things like that. How do I club that with my individual income, right? A lot of people are investing as a family. I'm investing through my account, but my spouse's account, and I have a minor that I'm investing his future towards. And I have those kind of complexities, right? How do I form HUF and do my taxes and things like that? There are people who tapped into, crypto promise and invested in crypto and other alternative investment classes. And the Indian tax landscape is not very clear about the tax treatment for a lot of those things. So that's why people fall into. So there are those kind of exotic situations where people do need to access tax advisor, whether it is online or offline. But let me assure you, I think for 90% of audiences today, platforms like Quicko really offer a great deal of comfort. You can do it from your home. They are hassle-free. Like I said, you can import all your data. And the best of all is, they're extremely cost-effective, right? Because of economies of scale, because we have hundreds of thousands of people filing taxes, so we can offer it at a really competitive price.
I was going to come to that. Even if I were to go to a CA, I need to find one. Yeah. And then I need to pay their minimum sort of whatever the charge is. And according to my math, I think there's a shortage of CAs compared to the number of tax filers. Do you know that? How many CAs are there in India?
I think roughly about 1 million certified chartered accountants. And CA exams are also very difficult to crack.
1 million chartered accountants.
Yeah.
But there are more coming into the pipeline, right?
Yeah, but CA exams are very difficult to crack.
Okay, and how does that compare with the size of the population that needs to file tax returns?
So right now, like I said, about 85 to 90 million people are filing taxes.
So 1 million to 90 million.
Yeah. So that's a huge gap.
What proportion of the 90 million have these complications that you just listed out?
So like I said,
10%, 10%.
I can refer to, so for example, I told you the breakdown of, the different ITR forms, and ITR 2 and 3 are considered complex ITR forms, right? So that's roughly 30 to 40% of income tax returns getting filed in India. On our platform, what we have seen is roughly 10% people have exotic income situations where they cannot file it themselves, or they don't have a confidence of filing it themselves.
But how many do that forms 2, 3, and 4?
Like I said, out of 85 million, that's roughly 40% of the income tax.
40%.
40% of the income
Okay,
tax.
so 60% do simply ITR 1.
Yep.
Yeah. For those, do you think they need to see a CA or an online platform?
No, absolutely not. Right. I'll tell you a few reasons why. Right. So income tax department, like I said, started connecting data through Aadhaar. Your employers are filing your TDS returns. All of that data gets pre-filled. Whether you are going to government portal, it gets pre-filled. Whether you are coming to Quicko, it gets pre-filled. So for salaried individual, 95% of the data is there.
Salaried. What if I'm not salaried? I'm working in a family business, which is what most of 93% of India does.
Right.
Then do I do ITR 1?
No, in that case, you would. It depends on how you take remuneration out of that business. If you get it in form of salary, again, you are a salaried individual. But if you get it in terms of profit that's coming out of business, then you will have to file ITR 3, which is for business profession income.
This is a good time to just understand your product. Okay. Walk me through everything that's on your website in terms of what products you offer for whom.
When we started with this very simple idea of solving taxes for individuals. Taxes is a very iceberg-like of problem statement. So over the last 10 years, we realized that while individuals love the access and comfort of mobile apps and web interfaces, really beautiful products with great vectors and animations, businesses don't, right? So while we serve individuals through Quicko, which is a D2C platform, for large businesses, we thought APIs would be the way to go about it, right? So we have something called Sandbox, which is our text API. It's one of its kind. It's the only text API platform in India. And like I said, we do today 1 billion API calls on Sandbox, right? So to give you a few examples, right? If you are Amazon and if you have 1 million sellers selling on your platform, number one, you want to onboard more sellers. So you will have to do a lot of text KYC. So you would use Sandbox. But then you will also have to deduct TDS when they sell through your platform. So in that case, you have to do TDS compliance for millions of sellers and tens of millions of transactions. So you could use APIs to automate a lot of this compliance. So that's Sandbox. Now, along the way, what we realized is a lot of chartered accountants started coming to us as an audience, right? And anybody who files taxes for more than 4 people on platform, we identify them as chartered accountant. And we realized that we had more than 50,000 of these chartered accountants using our platform. So over last year and a half, what we are doing is also building out something called Quicko Pro. So where Pro stands for, chartered accountants, and we are continuously building functionalities and features. So helping them run their practices more efficiently, but then plugging our products into it so they can use our products and the advantage that comes with it. So these are the audiences that we are serving for.
So I heard 4 different ones. One is Quicko for individuals.
Yep.
Fairly straightforward.
Yep.
Then is Quicko for small businesses.
Yes.
That includes GST.
Yes.
Yeah. So Quicko for individuals is income tax.
Yep.
Quicko for businesses includes GST.
GST and TDS.
And TDS.
Yes.
Then there's Quicko Pro now, which is for chartered accountants. And then there's Sandbox, which is APIs for businesses that have a whole bunch of not just tax, but KYC and other onboarding APIs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tax being the focus.
Talk me through pricing.
What we realized is, and I've heard it in multiple of your podcasts, India doesn't want to pay for software and SaaS and things like that. If you offer the right product and service, we haven't found that friction or we haven't faced that friction, right? Of course, you have to price it right. If I'm able to access Netflix and all the content at 199 rupees per month, then I'm not going to pay a few thousand rupees for, accessing another software, right? So today, what we do is, before I delve into pricing, I think, how do we look at taxes and pricing? Let me just very quickly skim through it. So, jokingly, we talk about our business being a Diwali Pataka business, right? Because everybody wants to file their taxes in handful number of days. And we are fed up of it. I think India is wired to do everything at a deadline, right? So we're trying to change that behavior, right? So how do you change that behavior? Of course, government does it through, a regulation by putting more compliances burden, advanced taxes and those kind of things require people to keep track of their taxes around the year. What we are doing is we are building product and interfaces through which you manage your taxes around the year, right? So today, Quicko's one-line pitch is you can save, pay, file, and track your taxes, right? So save starts from the beginning of financial year, right? A lot of us declared our investments to our income sources to our employer. A lot of us, have to pay advance taxes, especially investors, traders have to pay advance taxes, right? Paying taxes, like you said, is uber difficult. You are having to go to government portal. Oftentimes, they only offer a handful number of choices to make payments. So we are the only platform in India through which you can make tax payments, right? File, of course, we've been talking about filing taxes. And the last but not the least is tracking your taxes, right? So what does that mean? As an investor trader, tracking your P&L around the year, so that how you can take advantage of tax gain harvesting, tax loss harvesting. You know that you can take advantage of that 1.25 lakh rupees of LTCG exemption now, right? So that's the scope of the product. So we are trying to change the user behavior to stay on top of the taxes around the year rather than just show up on 31st July, right? Which is why we price it as a subscription model and not as a one-time transaction model, right? So our customers pay us anywhere between $199 and $299, depending on what their income situation is per month, to use the platform, to access the platform.
Individual one.
The individual
basic one.
Yes.
Yeah. And there it doesn't matter whether they do ITR 1, 2.
It doesn't matter. So the pricing only changes when your income slab changes, right? So if you are somebody who is earning more than 10 lakh rupees, then you go into 299. If you're somebody who earns less than...
It's 299.
Yes. So Quicko is D2C. Now Sandbox is B2B, right? So there we have a subscription model, right? So depending on scale and size of your business. So one thing, the reason we started Sandbox is I'm an engineer. Most of my core team is engineers, right? We are engineers trying to solve taxes. So we felt that, number one, businesses would not want to go to other people's interfaces to solve. They oftentimes have their back offices, their dashboards. They're using either SAP or Microsoft to kind of automate their back offices. So what they would like to do is plug into other people's APIs to solve taxes, right? And that's where we decided, instead of building interfaces for large businesses, let's build APIs. And that's what Sandbox is. So Sandbox is a subscription. However, as developers, as a D2D platform, what we wanted to make sure is it's accessible to a small startup all the way to a large enterprise. So our plans start from $999 per month for a small startup who can make 1,000 API calls per month. And some of our larger customers are, on 1 million API calls per month, with 99,999 per month, right? So there we have vast kind of different size of and shapes of customer. Today we have roughly 500 customers there who make more than 900 million API calls, close to 1 billion API calls annually. So that's how we charge on Sandbox. Now, for businesses, small businesses who use our platform to do GST and TDS compliance, is again a monthly recurring subscription, because those are monthly compliances. You have to file your GST return every month. You have to file your TDS return quarterly. However, you have to deposit TDS, calculate and deposit TDS every month. So there we have a plan starting from $499 and goes up until $1499 per month. That's a DIY, right? Now, like I said, we also offer an online tax advisory, right? So while you are using our software to do it yourself, if you need help, you can, we have something called Meet, which is our online tax advisory. And their plans start from $1999 and they can go up to $999 for individuals, right? So these are different pricing models.
You left out the Pro.
So Quicko Pro is at a very early stage. So we have the platform, customers are using it. But today, what we have done is, if you bring your practice online and use Quicko Pro, then we charge 2% of your revenue on the platform, right? So it's based on order management system, right? So you sell your services to your customer. We solve payments, booking, scheduling, order management for you, and then you can serve those orders using our products. So there we charge 2% of your revenue.
And how much time would a CA save by going to your platform?
Remember, I told you a few anecdotes. We did 15,000 online tax advisories. I have 3.5 chartered accountants in my team, like 3 chartered accountants and somebody who is pursuing accountancy. right? With that smaller team, we were able to solve 15,000 tax advisories, right?
3.5. 3.5. Okay, I thought you said 3,000. It's like, what?
No, 3.5. Jokingly, we say 3.5 charter accounts, right? We have somebody who is a CA intern. So
This is for the meat.
this is for the meet. So what we, of course, 3 people cannot help 15,000 people. So we have CAs who kind of empanel with us and help our customers, right? So we have roughly a network of 500 plus CAs through which we serve these advisories. But what happens is, and a CA firm, their turnaround time would be anywhere between 7 to 14 days if you go to them with a problem statement, right? What happens is, the way we have built the online tax advisory, it's like book my show, right? The first thing you do is what advisory you want. The next thing you do is choose the timing at which you want that advisory. And the third thing you do is you make a payment, right? Now, what this does is tremendous change in user behavior. Most of our customers book the earliest advisory slot that they get. 95% of advisories finish within the half an hour slot that we allot to them. And they use our products in order to follow the SOPs and achieve the fast execution turnaround of that advisory, right? And over last couple of years, what we have done is only focus on offering those advisories that we could solve through our products, right? So that we can manage the SOPs and we can take advantage of the platform that we have built. So that's how we serve advisories, and we charge, like I said, between 2,000 and 5,000 rupees.
And you said the 500 CAs that come to your platform using this, how do you do a revenue share with them?
Yes. So we are equal partners. So we do 50% revenue share. So the platform
is paying, say, 2,000 rupees. You keep half and they get half.
I don't know if you've seen the founder, the McDonald founder movie. So one of the things his earlier franchisee partners are HNIs, and he figures out after a few months, the stores are poorly managed. It's usually managed through people and things like that. I really like that anecdote. And then he starts giving out franchisee to young couple who are looking to build their family and build their business and build their wealth, right? So similarly, a lot of our CA partners are young CAs who have just graduated. These are not CA firms. These are individual CAs who are looking to build out their practices. And this financial year, we paid out more than $150,000 in commissions to the CA firms.
How did you start? Did you find a co-founder? How did you go about building the product?
Like I said, I've always worked in, at a cross junction of finance and technology. I worked at Fidelity, which was at that time the largest 401k manager. At any given time, 50% of America has their retirement savings with Fidelity. This was in the backdrop of 2008. So I also got first-hand experience at how important it is to manage your money yourself, personal financial planning. Right, so I was always intrigued and interested in that space. I've built in that space for 8-9 years before I founded Quicko. I moved back to India because I wanted my kid to grow up closer to grandparents, so it was more of a personal decision. And when I was back, I wanted to take advantage of all the exposure that I had get and the opportunity that India presented. Right, this was very early, 2013, 14. And I started tinkering around with a lot of tools, and I really got excited. Of course, all the players that you talked about, H&R Block or TurboTax, these are some of the products I had used in US. And I'd seen the growth of those products, right? Like I said, starting from typing all the data all the way to, just punching in your SSN, like getting all the data for you. So I thought something like that was possible in India. That was the first year that Income Tax Department also launched certain APIs to enable third-party app developers like us to build products and platforms, right? So that was a coincidence. So that's how I started building Quicko. Now, like I said, when I started, I did not know that the expanse of the scope of the problem statement. So when I started my first pitch, whenever I go back to it, right, the one-liner pitch was, we are building TurboTax for India.
To what?
So TurboTax is not a reference that Indian customer would catch on to, but if you go on to, product hunts of the world, or you go to investors, you would usually say, I'm building TurboTax for India. Or you apply to YC, you would say, I'm building TurboTax for India.
Is that what you did? Or did you build an MVP product first?
Absolutely.
You did?
Right?
Okay.
Yeah.
So the first thing you did was build, because you have a computer science, you're a coder. So you built it yourself.
Yes,
built
I
it
built
yourself?
it myself, yes.
Okay, fine. So you were by yourself, built this product, and then what happened?
Then for about 2 years, nobody showed up.
Where did you pitch?
Remember, when you are working at a large business, you are a small cog in the wheel, right? So While I was, working at large financial institutions, I never had to deal with even putting up my website or setting up servers or, going and pitching it to customers and getting
So you got the
clients.
realities of a
So
startup.
I got the reality check of a startup in first 2 years, right?
But the product was ready.
The product was ready. In the first 6 months, we had the MVP. It's not like we didn't have any customers. We had few thousand customers. So, in one of our journey decks, it took
How
us
did you get the
5
first-
years to get to 100,000 customers.
How did you get the first few thousand? How did you
first
so
few
you built the
thousand-
product and where did you put it out?
The first few thousands are always friends and family, right? So it was friend and family. I also kind of, cajoled my dad. Like I said, he runs schools. So I cajoled him into forcing his staff to do taxes through my platform. So that's usually how you get your first customers.
All this is in Ahmedabad.
All of this is in Ahmedabad. And then Zerodha happened.
How did Zerodha happen?
So
Rather Rain Matter.
all the startups who are building, they put their MVP on something called Product Hunt. I would recommend any young founder, if you want to really get the eyes of product builders, you have to be on Product Hunt, right? So every time we build a product, we put it out on Product Hunt. The way Rain Matter is wired is there are people continuously looking out for products, right? Also, oftentimes it's through their personal experiences they discover products, and then the Rain Matter conversation happens. So somebody from Zerodha used the product, they came across it on Product Hunt and ended up using it. They liked it. I got a call from.
This is when? This is which year?
This is 2019. This is right before COVID. And then, like a lot of founders' story, I flew to Bangalore and over a very short conversation, ended up raising funds from Nitin. For us, I think, and for a lot of...
What did you need it for?
I think I didn't need funds, frankly speaking. But what I needed was a validation, right? Oftentimes, what happens is, especially when you are building in the emerging hubs, right? People like to call tier 2, tier 3 towns, but emerging hubs, the most important thing is validation, right? Somebody important, somebody who has built something of significant, validating that this is an important problem statement and it needs solving. That's what we sought, not the funding, right? So, and since then I haven't raised funds. So
how much did you raise from Rain Matter?
I raised about $300,000.
I looked that up on Traction yesterday and I was like, no, this must be outdated. Surely you've raised more than that.
I haven't.
No?
Yeah.
Wow. It was 280,000
Investors don't think taxes are big enough problem statement.
You had the first 100,000 customers. You put it on Product Hunt. Rain Matter happened. You got the $280,000. And then what did you do with that?
I'm an engineer. All I know is how to build products. So I invested into building better products, bigger products, scaled the team. When Nitin invested, we were 7 people. Today, we are roughly 50 people. When Nitin invested, we were 100,000 customers. Now we are 2.2 million customers. We were filing out of those 100,000 people, maybe 10,000 returns. Today, we file close to 250,000 income tax returns. We had no Sandbox. Today, we have Sandbox with 500 million customer. Our ARR is roughly $2 million right now. So that's what Zerodha investment or Rain Matter investment did for us.
And how many of these customers came from Zerodha?
Out of 2.2 million registered customers, roughly 347,000 have come from Zerodha. So we have built something called App Store, where you connect an app, just like Google Play Store, Apple App Store. So if you go there, you can actually see where all we are getting customers from. So there are all the apps listed, Zerodhas and Grows and Upstocks of the world. And you can see how many people have installed those apps. That's why I know the number off top of my head. So we have roughly 347,000 customers that came from Zerodha.
Right. And after you did Zerodha, you went to these other people as well, Grow and...
We did a very small growth hack, and that's something I borrowed from Vasant and Small Case. So what we did is, after you do Zerodha integration and you get to know the product, we put a small tweet to your broker if you don't see your broker. And in 3 years between 2020 and 2023, roughly 7,000 tweets went out to all the broker partners saying, hey, I use your platform to do investments, but I would love for you to partner up with Quicko to do taxes.
These are individual investors on these platforms tweeting on X or Twitter, saying, use Quicko, enable Quicko so that we have better ease for filing our tax returns.
Absolutely.
Yeah?
That's how we ended up cracking all 15 top brokers. Today we are integrated at all top 15 brokers. And the remaining out of 2.2 million customers, a lot of those customers are referred to us. So Angel, Grow, Upstocks, Zerodha, all have referred more than 100,000 customers to us.
So basically you tap the broking community first. I noticed also that you have a Finfluencer program. Talk us, is that another idea that you borrowed from all these?
No, so I think that's the great advantage of being part of Rainmatter ecosystem, right? So you have immediate access to operators, to people, because Zerodha is a reasonable size. I am being modest.
You are being modest. It's the largest broker.
It's the largest broker. It's the most successful startup. It's the startup, and a lot of these problems occurred along the way when Nitin and team were building Zerodha. And a lot of people have gained hands-on experience solving some of this problem statements. So we oftentimes tap into that expertise and experience. So one such person is Sagar. We tapped into his expertise, and we, because this is between 2020 and 2022, a lot of people were at home. They were accessing capital markets for the first time. They were following a lot of these influencers as to how to start investing. And because we were primarily solving for investor trader, it looked like a logical thing to do. We partnered up with all the influencers, and that was a very important kind of outreach, visibility for us. Today at Quicko, we don't struggle with growth and acquisition. Our primary struggle is because text is, if you do UPI, you probably end up, punching in 2 or 3 data points, right? An amount and who do you want to send it to and which bank you want to use. If you do taxes, even the simplest of ITR forms requires you to report over 150 data points, right? So what we are doing is working with tax departments to streamline the movement of data, right? Through consent mechanisms. Can we access those data sources? And can we import that data onto platforms? So that's something we have cracked really well. A lot of competition has also borrowed from it, right? So that's something we are really good at. So reaching out to Finfluencers was a way to kind of get the word out that this platform exists and they can use it.
And how do you continue that marketing, customer acquisition growth story?
Now, kind of delving into secrets. About 6 months ago, what we realized is, I think there's still a lot of upside, right? Between top 15 brokers, there are roughly 11 million, 12 million DMAT accounts. We have only tapped into about 2 million DMAT accounts or 2 million traders, investors, right? So we are building features for traders and investors to do more granular tracking, to get super enriched P&L reports, to pay advanced taxes on time and things like that. That's one way we further go deep into that audience. But one thing we realize that instead of pull, we'll have to push our product, right? So again, being engineers, marketing is not the first thought that comes to our mind. So what we realize is, while FinTech and especially InvestTech is a 20 million audience business, the larger FinTech, for example, PhonePays of the world is 400 million audience, right? So how do we tap into that audience? So what we realize is we will have to push our product rather than bringing customer onto our platform. So we are the only platform in India that today offers SDKs, which you can plug and play in any FinTech app. You can...
Developer language, what is an SDK?
So an SDK is, let's say if you are a FinTech and you have a captive audience and you want to solve taxes, either you build it yourself or you can plug Quicko's SDK, right? And it's just like a payment gateway, right? If you want to collect payments, you would use
So you would go to someone like a PhonePay and say, here?
Exactly.
Are you talking to them?
So yeah, absolutely. They are integrating with it. So in a day, you can integrate with Quicko's SDK and start offering taxes. Yeah. So we have, we have really exciting set of customers who are integrating with it, including large traditional banks, fintechs. So that's how we will discover our next 10 million customers.
How many such platforms are there? How many competitors do you have?
So we primarily compete with Clear, which is the largest, ClearTax, which is the largest tax platform. I think
they seem to have cracked the content game, because the reason, I noticed this in the last few years, every time I've had a tax query, I type into Google and the first result is always ClearTax.
And why did you not use their product?
I have a CA, I told you, I have a complicated thing. So I don't even know they have a product.
Right.
My point is not, I'm consuming their content.
Right.
I know their brand.
No, absolutely. So they've done fantastic job at, search engine optimization. Their content ranks widely and a lot of people have given this feedback. Right. At the same time, I think what has really worked for Quicko is if you today log into Console or Keystone of Upstocks, or if you go to Grow Reports, or if you go to Angel One mobile app, and you go to download your tax P&L report, you would immediately see you have an ability to file your taxes through Quicko. And you tap on it, and in that single tab, there is, you end up giving consent to Quicko. Of course, it's with your consent that we access your data, and within 5 seconds, you will see your P&L on a tax platform. And you could file your taxes using that data, right? And that has really worked for us. So, of course, in the earlier days, I also, sometimes you become competitor focused, right? And we would also write how to log in into HDFC net banking, and we would get 250,000 clicks from Google searches, but that does not translate into real business oftentimes, right? Which is why I asked you whether you ended up using the product.
But so you're hyper focused on the investing community.
Absolutely.
By integrating with all these things. But like I said, when you go out to integrate with a larger fintech platform, like a payment gateway and stuff, then you'll probably have to do more, right?
Absolutely.
But because it's okay, so apart from Clear, anybody else? There's HR Block in India as well?
HR Block exited India market several years ago.
Okay. So then there's not too many competitors.
Fortunately or unfortunately, there are not enough people building for taxes in India.
Why is that? I mean, this is what goes back to the first question. Yeah. Is it a big enough problem to solve? I mean, having said that, everybody has to put together the paperwork. The pain point is there no matter what. So whether I do it by giving consent to your platform, or whether I need to collect things in a shoebox, all the paperwork, and give it to my CA. Either way, I have to collate all the data to be able to do my tax returns, right?
The founder, and because I'm building it for 10 years, this is a conversation that happens almost every other night, right? And there are two parts to your question. I'll try to answer those. So number one, why not enough people are looking to build in tech space? Is it because the market size is small, or is it, and like I said, for example, if Hansi had today wanted to build Book My Show, she understands the 80% of it, right? She consumes movies. She knows how to go to a theater. You have to book a ticket. And if there is an online platform that helps you book a ticket, it's a very easy to understand problem statement. I'm not trivializing Book My Show. It's a great platform. If you want to build an Uber, you know 80% of it, right? You know, in order to go from point A to point B, you would want a cab, and if you can book it on a phone. Taxes don't come intuitively to people, right? Somebody who's getting out of college is not looking to solve taxes. That means who would have to solve taxes? Chartered accountants. And fortunately or unfortunately, a lot of people who don't come from tech background has a huge handicap, right? Because And this is one of the things that we as a team discussed, that when we started, we did not want to solve it for chartered accountant. Today we do. The reason we did not want to is if we would go, they would think of 500 client scale. And they would identify the most fringe problem statements and they would say, let's solve for it, right? Instead looking at a large mass audience that could do it themselves online, right? So that is one reason why not enough people are building for taxes, apart from all the other reasons that we discussed. Maybe the digital tax infrastructure is not where it needs to be. It's improving. Hopefully it gets there and more people come and participate and build this space. We think that when customers have more choices, more customers come into market, and we are willing to bet our chips on the products that we are building, and we think we'll win out in that market. Now, number two is it a big enough business to build, right, Hansi? And like I said, today, we are not building TurboTax for India. When we are having conversations today, we are saying we are building Intuit for India, right? So while TurboTax is a $10 billion revenue business, Intuit is $100 billion revenue business. It's an accounting giant, right? And it's going to be a long journey. It's not going to happen overnight. Now, coincidentally, India's per capita income is roughly around $3,400 right now. And the basic exemption where you don't have to pay any taxes is roughly 3 lakh rupees. And they are exactly the same numbers, right? What we are waiting is for that catalyst moment where enough people, and then the India 1, India 2, India 3 story, right? Where India's per capita GDP, where we become a middle income economy, there is a huge India 2 that will have taxable incomes and they will have to do taxes, and number of chartered accountants we already discussed, they will not have access to chartered accountants, or it will be very expensive to access chartered accountants. And that's happening. We are seeing 14-15% year-over-year growth, but I think it's gonna expedite. There will be a catalyst movement when that happens, and we are geared up towards it. We are building platform towards it, and we are really bullish about what we are building.
But even before that, I mean, even you said 90 million tax filers, and at the moment you are 2 million. So you still have growth anyway in the salaried, or rather the income taxpayers currently. Absolutely. But also the small business, the GST component I would have thought that would be a big pain point. And are you sort of focused on that market? How do you access that market? That can't be got through Zerodha.
So we have few learnings there, right? So one of our learnings was that unlike individuals who only do taxes once a year, and hence they don't mind going to a platform once a year, bringing all their data for that one event, businesses have to do taxes around the year, right? And oftentimes their taxes are related to their invoices or the payments that they make or receive. And a lot of this is happening either in their banks or in their ERPs. And hence an island of a tax platform does not make sense, because nobody would want to every month take all their data to a tax platform to do taxes. Also, all these ERP platforms also have built out tax modules through which you can file taxes, right?
So all of them would be competitors of yours?
All of them would be competitors, right? And there are 16,000 ERPs in India, right? So what over last several years, what we have focused on is, we are really good for people who are providing services in India. And that's where also the higher income scales and the awareness towards online platforms is very wide and accepted, right? So what we today are is a sort of a neobank platform for small businesses, right? So you can bring your own bank. We have partnership with several banks. You can bring your own bank. You can integrate your bank. That way you can do payments from our platform. It's like Shopify of, let's say, running your business, small business, right? So you can bring your bank, you can connect onto platform, and then you can essentially do payments, accounting, compliances, all in a single, platform. And that is something we have built out over last couple of years. We don't have a lot of customers there, but we are extremely bullish on that, because we feel that's the right solution to offer rather than offer an island of a tax platform.
Where are you at with that marketing of that service?
Kind of accessing through marketplace is how we know how to build a large scale business. So there also we partner up with platforms that aggregate. For example, Razorpay is a great example, has more than 5 million merchants, right? So Zoho is another great example that has a lot of people running their businesses, right? Where we have complementary product offering. So we are continuously accessing those kind of platforms. If one of those we are able to integrate with, that will unlock the growth and inbound traffic. That's how we build, we build traction instead of performance ads or marketing or those kind of.
So you're clear that you will not try to build a retail brand through advertising. You would rather go and work in partnership with one of these larger ones.
Certain things that don't work at certain scale, again, start working at a very different scale. So as a founder, as a team, we are very pragmatist. We are very, very realist. So we continuously, from time to time, we explore all the different ways that we can expand our business. But right now, like I said, growth is not a problem. We have first 5 years took 100,000 customers. Today, we onboard 70 to 100,000 customers every month onto platform, right? So for us, the focus is how do we make more and more customers succeed on our platform, because it's so data intensive, because there are so many nuances involved in doing your taxes and compliances. How do we streamline our products and our journeys and our workflows? How do we explain it better to customers through our interfaces, so more of them succeed on our platform is something we are razor focused on. And that's why Quicko's products stand out in the marketplace.
Talk numbers, where are you at? You said 2 million.
We are right now at 2 million ARR. So that's, I think, again, I am an engineer, but recently somebody said T3, D2. So if you triple your business thrice and double it twice, it's $100 million business from $1 million revenue, starting off $1 million revenue base. So that's something we are looking to do. However, the way we are getting there is every year incrementally. So today we have a very robust business if you look at it. between Quicko and Quicko Pro and Sandbox, we get 30% of the revenues from each one of these businesses, right? So
the business is diversified across.
Business is diversified across all these cohorts, right? So the goal of my personal goal and my team's goal is to grow each one of those cohorts. So if we grow each one of those cohorts, we are very confident of being able to grow them 2x, 3x every year over the next 3 to 5 years. So that's the goal.
What's your team look like?
So team is mostly very young people. Average age would probably be 23, 24. And a lot of us are engineers. So roughly 22, 23 product folks. So we are engineers, designers, and analysts.
CAs, where are the CAs? Why do you only have 3.5 CAs?
I have a very small team of chartered accountants. These are people who have technical leaning. They believe in technology. So they mostly help us build the products and not serve the customers, right? In order to serve the customers, we tap into the CA community fraternity. And then we have a small content team. We work very closely with Varsity and Zerodha YouTube channels. So we have about 8 to 10 people content team. And then we have 8 to 10 people support team because so many customers use our platform. We are continuously helping our customers. So that's the composition of team. We are roughly 45 people, 45 to 50 people right now.
5 odd people split. How many women?
Surprisingly, all 3.5 chartered accountants are women.
Why is that surprising?
Sakshi, Shreya, Jaini, and Bharti.
Shout out to these young women who are helping this CA firm actually have CAs. Right. But no, actually, leading to that point though, so hang on. So why are the developers and support and all the other people not women?
They are.
Okay, so what's the split?
I would say 40-60. 40% women.
Okay, oh, that's not bad. That's pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. On the women CAs, I believe that I think 51 odd percent or more than 50% of the students sitting the CA exam are now young ladies.
True.
Yet I don't see them building practices. I'm just curious, I don't know why they're doing it, whether they're doing it just because it's a respectable profession.
Right.
Whatever it is, it's good for women in finance.
Right.
But like I said, I don't see them turning up. Is there a possibility where you can harness this talent workforce?
We have a strong sense of community. We did not build to replace chartered accountants, but to partner with chartered accountants, right? And that's how we discuss some of the things, how we contribute back to CA community. Now, I think one of the reasons that I have observed, I work with a lot of chartered accountants, a lot of our partner network. I recently went through interviews with all our partner chartered accountants. One of the reasons I could think of is most of the professional services is a networking business. And any network, you have to invest 5-10 years of time into building that network. And unfortunate reality of India today is girls are still getting relocated after they get married, right? So it's very difficult to upkeep that network. So when you move, you are having to start again building that network, right? That could be one of the reasons why you don't see enough CA practices led by women, right? While I think you bring up a very interesting point that and the kind of gig economy of world of things, the way we do taxes, I think there is a great opportunity to tap into that, harness that power, right? And absolutely, if we want to become a $20 trillion economy, then women will have to be matching shoulder to shoulder and competing on all those opportunities alongside with men, right? So that's something we. While consciously or subconsciously, continuously, when we hire people, we are always looking for that opportunity. But if we can formalize it into opportunities for young women chartered accountants to come sit from their home and help customers across India, then nothing like it.
Networking is an interesting point because it's a very common heard thing that women don't do rise in business, in work, in all kinds of professions because they're not able to put the time aside in the evenings to be able to network with clients because they have to look after their kids, they have to look after the aging parents, and so on. And I think also a lot of time it gets misconstrued, right? Being available to go for a meeting. So yeah, so if you can offer these young women graduates a platform where you acquire the customers, so they don't have to network, but yet they're available remotely because your Meet program is remote, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so they're okay. So again, young women CAs, if you're watching or hearing this, apply to Quicko for becoming their partner.
Yeah, there's a partner page on the website and they can apply there.
Roughly how much do they manage to earn through that program?
In smaller towns, a CA would make anywhere 50,000 rupees per month. right? What we've seen with our partners is for most of these partners, we are able to double their income, right? Because we are bringing clientele from all across India.
A lakh a month?
50,000 rupees a month, right? So they are able to double their income. They are earning 50,000 rupees from their practice, and when they partner up with us, they are able to double their income, right? I think it's a great opportunity. It works for all the stakeholders. Customers are able to access top quality chartered accountants from the comfort of their home. Chartered accountants are able to access one of the common feedback that I got from all the CAs who work with us. Now, these are all over India. We make an effort in order to support vernacular languages for our customers. We make an effort to get chartered accountants from across India. One of the most common feedback that I've heard is working with Quicko has expanded my knowledge or exposure to my field, because they end up getting diversified. If you are in Jalandhar, you will only get certain kind of clientele. If you are in Kanpur, you will only get clientele from certain business community. If you are in Ahmedabad, you will only get certain kind of clientele, right? But when you are working with Quicko, your clients are coming from all parts of India. Our clients come from merchant ships. Our clients are expats who are Indians living outside, right? Our clients are investing in all kind of asset classes. Our clients have all kind of income situations. So that's another great advantage of kind of partnering up with a platform like Quicko, and that's something we are continuously looking to expand. I think if they grow, naturally we grow, and I would love to partner up with women chartered accountants, young women who are looking to build their practice.
Speaking of chartered accountants, how well known are you amongst established chartered accountants? So would all the members of the Institute of Chartered Accountants know you?
Before Zerodha invested, maybe 1 or 2 out of 10 chartered accountants would know about us. Today, surprisingly, I would say 7 to 8 chartered accountants out of 10 know about Quicko. Like I said, more than 50,000 chartered accountants are using Quicko for their clientele, right? Of course, it's a small number compared to 1 million chartered accountants in India. But a lot of our customers are taking our products to a chartered accountant community, right? Because when they use the product, they like it. They go and take those products back to their chartered accountants. That's also how chartered accountants discover a product.
So we've discussed marketing, we've discussed product development, where you're working with the income tax department to sort of work on streamlining.
As a participant to that ecosystem, and now since building for 10 years, we have built strong credibility and credentials where we go partner up with income tax department also. When the new portal launched a couple of years ago, we were the first one to do the VAPT testing, identify any security issues with the income tax portal, any functional issues with the portal, so that people don't struggle on the portal. Something we have done. Income tax department acknowledges it, and now they are rebuilding the third version of income tax portal, and we are an important stakeholder in those kind of conversations as well.
What about lessons learned in team building? Are there things that you've learned in the last 10 odd years of your founder journey that you wish you had known earlier?
The number one learning is when I, as a young engineer, 30-year-old engineer, when I started Quicko, I thought I could code my way, right? I know how to code, how to build software, and I think that's what I needed. Over last 10 years, what I've learned is the biggest problem statement that a founder faces, biggest 3 problem statement that the founder faces are people, people, and people, right? Because building businesses oftentimes are long, arduous journeys. What happens is when somebody works with you for 18 months, I think Nitin has also said it, something magical happens. It's just like a marriage, right? You start reading between the lines, you start connecting the dots, you understand each other's preferences, right? And you are much more productive working together than you are otherwise, right? So my, almost today, more than 50% of my time goes into managing people's expectation, motivating them every day. These are young folks. Also, these are very challenging times for founders to build, because there are so many avenues available to youngsters. A lot of people want to go abroad and pursue their studies. A lot of people want to move to bigger cities like Bangalore and otherwise, right? So it's very challenging for founders these days to kind of retain great talent, continuously keep them motivated, right? So that's something I do day in, day out. That takes away more than half of my time.
There's a whole bunch of companies in the Rain Matter system that are adjacent to Zerodha, but sometimes overlap as well. True. To what extent do you work with these other founders and startups in the Rainmatter ecosystem, and to what extent do you compete with them?
So one thing I like to believe we are doing really well is we are extremely vocal. When like COVID unfolded, and then the first opportunity we had to come back to office, we were back in office primarily because we like to build products by conversing. We are continuously conversing. Even today, most of my teams spends at least 10 to 15 hours in conversations. And these are informal conversations, jam sessions, whiteboarding sessions, is how we have built products, right? So what that does is everybody knows where we are going and what we are building, and they know all the reasons why we took those decisions, right? So there is very seldom those kind of conversations as to we wake up tomorrow and say, hey, why we are not building this or that, because all those conversations continuously happen. Another really interesting thing that we have done differently than, for example, our competitors is we are building it in concentric circles. So if you, last hour and a half, what we have done is we have built it for individuals, then we expanded that circle to build it for businesses. Then we felt if we externalize the APIs, we can solve it for large businesses. Then we use all those products and gave it to chartered accountants. So the goal is to expand that circle rather than build island of products, right? So that's our philosophy. We think we work really well when we do that, and it also complements every other fintech product, right? So today we can partner up with bank, we can partner up with a broker, an investment app, a fintech app, a UPI payment app. We can also partner up with a payment gateway, right? So it opens up all those opportunities for us when we build Texas in concentrics.
One of the companies that we interviewed in this series is a company called MProfit,
right.
Which does the IRR calculation based on storing transaction data rather than holdings data.
Right.
And one of the big USP that they said was, one, to calculate the IRR, but also to do the tax returns.
Right.
I'm just curious now, given the data you need to have, isn't that something you can also do?
And we do that. And Ketan is a good friend. I've met him several times. I know both his sons. I've met them several times also in Mumbai and Ahmedabad. I, in fact, there was a broker expo in Ahmedabad a couple of months ago where I met some of his team members. So this is again, in Rainmatter ecosystem, a lot of startups are coming to arriving at similar problem statements from different point of views. And this is one such example. What Ketan and MProfit team are trying to do is helping investors track their portfolios better, right? Of course, one of the ancillary problem statements, hence, is generating capital gain statements also for them. What people use Quicko for is primarily accessing their tax P&L reports, right? So this is all the realized profits and losses and not the unrealized profits and losses. So I'm not helping people visualize their portfolio and their asset allocation.
So you don't care and can't track unrealized,
right?
But you care only realized once it becomes a tax issue.
Absolutely, that's what we are super focused on, and we have similar kind of value proposition, right? When you go to Zerodha or Upstocks or Grow, you can only download your tax P&L reports for those demat accounts, but when you come to Quicko, you are able to.
You can do it multiple, right? You can get all the brokers. If I have 5 brokers, I can obviously consolidate from all 5 brokers.
Onto Quicko, yes.
Onto Quicko, right?
Yes,
which is what MProfit does
absolutely.
as well, which is why I was asking.
Absolutely.
Okay. Are there any other companies in the Rainmatter ecosystem that you've partnered with or reached out via Rainmatter?
We have worked with multiple of the startups, but I think it would happen more and more, I think, going forward. Primarily, I'll tell you why. The reason we were able to build off of hard work that Zerodha team has done is because of the size and scale. A business has to be of certain size and scale. I tell my teammates that it has to be a nuclear, a nuclear reactor for it to give heat to other businesses, right? So that's what Zerodha business is. As some of our businesses scale, will hopefully be able to be that, we will be able to support other businesses as well. So today we work with Ditto in certain cases, right? For example, when a customer who is looking to save their taxes and want to access insurance as an avenue to save taxes, we do refer customers to Ditto. Similarly, we do work with small case in certain instances, right? So those opportunities are there, but because all of us are still with our heads down, building those audiences that we can then, leverage. I think the value unlock is not as big as it would otherwise be with Zerodha. So, but I think that would happen more and more as we go forward.
You said you haven't raised any more money because you didn't need it. So does that mean you're profitable?
We break even. Most of the money we invest back into the business. Fortunately, as I don't know if I can qualify as a bootstrap business, but last several years I also do a small buybacks to make sure my team has some liquidity. They feel that what we are building is meaningful and important and it has real value. So those are the ways we invest back whatever money we make into building products, into growing our people and building our business.
Any things that have happened in the last 10 years that you wish you'd handled differently?
No, of course, as founders, there are so many situations where there are few things that I tell my team, right? As founder, you are a host of a space. It's a physical space, it's a mental space. And we say in our culture, Atithi Devo Bhava, right? So as a founder, you have to have that mindset of welcoming everyone into that physical and mental space. That's something, and all of us have our demons within it, within ourselves, right? If a conversation didn't go well, if somebody said something, did not follow instructions, those demons continuously want to come out. I have over the last 10 years learned to kind of, overcome those instincts, those impulses, and be that host so that my team can every day come into my office space, whether it is physical or mental office space, and help me build. That's something I've learned. It's work in progress. I oftentimes miss the mark and I'm working at it.
I meant something very tangible. For example, Zerodha, as successful as they are, Nitin also said that regulatory risks are there, right? Like that, do you have regulatory risks or liability issues? So for example, if you make mistakes in filing tax returns, I'm just curious, who bears the fine? Or if tomorrow the government launches an amazing portal, do you need to exist? I'm just curious whether you have these sort of concerns.
There are a few concerns that you raise. So for instance, when the financial year ends, your incomes are fixed, your liabilities are fixed. All an income tax filing activity is reporting all of that, right? So at worst, a mistake that you could make is you miss out on reporting, right? It does have certain implications. For example, there are late filing interest, penalties and things like that. Those are very nominal. From day one, what we have done is if somebody who files through us and receives a notice, we help them for free to amend that. There are a few reasons. Like I said, we are a seasonal business. We get a lot of customers who file during month of July, but then these notices trickle down. Right? They come over 6, 8, 12 months of time. And oftentimes we have bandwidth and ability to help those customers. So we never turn down a customer. Of course, people who go for advisory, we do it for free. But even people who DIY file onto our platform, we do it for free. And until we can do it, we will continue to do it. Right? That's number one. So that does not, like I said, our business does not result into any form of liability for us. That if somebody did not pay their taxes, we are not liable to pay those taxes, so to speak, right? That's their liability. We continuously build technology and intelligence into our products that we don't make those silly and stupid mistakes, right? And that's why a lot of customers also succeed on our platform. We gather all the data sources and make sure that everything gets reported. Until then, we don't let you file income tax return. So while your chartered accountant would overlook a detail and would say, okay, if you don't want to report, you can file the return. On Quicko, you would be blocked by the product, right? Because
how so? Say, if I don't report something.
So for example, your AIS has all the transactions. AIS is annual information statement that income tax department provides, right? So for example, your banks, your AMCs, your brokers, your exchanges have to report your financial transactions to income tax department. So they only know about it, right? Now, if you don't, in your income tax return, let's say in your AIS, there is a mutual fund sell transaction. And in your income tax return, you haven't reported any capital gains. We won't let you file your income tax return, right? Until, of course, we would present that information to you that, hey, you have done a mutual fund sell transaction. It's available in your AIS, but we don't see it in your income tax return.
That could be an oversight, right? But you're saying in your system doesn't allow an oversight like that.
We compare data in your income tax return, and we compare it with data available with income tax department, and we make sure that we don't allow you to file your income tax return until that data matches.
And all this is in the product.
All of this is baked into product.
What about, is there any scope for AI augmenting this? And
we already, made initiatives on low-hanging fruits. A lot of businesses are automating their support centers, their help centers. We have done that, right? So today, when customers submit a support ticket, it's answered by a bot and not a human, so that we don't have to scale support teams. The other thing that we do is when customers upload documents onto our platform, using machine learning and AI, we read those documents, we validate those documents. So let's say you are trying to file your income tax return, but you upload your spouse's Form 16, or you upload a bank statement that belongs to someone, or for a different year, right? So those kind of things we are immediately able to help our customers with, navigate around. We are also getting to a place where today, when a chartered accountant goes into an online advisory, their first 15 minutes are spent in gathering those documents, and the other 15 minutes are spent punching that data into the income tax return, right? So we are trying to automate as much of it as possible, using machine learning, using AI. So when a chartered accountant and customer meet in that half an hour video conference, what we want them to do is look at the data, discuss it, ask questions off of it, understand it better, plan it for the next year, is where we want to take the conversation, rather than, two parties entering data or gathering data or managing data.
so where are you at with that? You're saying it's already automated, or you're in the process?
Everything is built incrementally. So we roll out features. So for example, this tax season, we rolled out a feature where you upload, for example, Form 16 is a structured document, right? It's government prescribed PDF. So it's very easy to read even without AI or ML, right? But a lot of customers upload contract notes. A lot of them upload, salary slips. A lot of them upload invoices or other kind of documents that are not standardized. So we have started using AI ML to be able to, with confidence, read those documents. So those are the kind of iterative changes that we are bringing about in our program.
I interrupted you there. Were there any other concerns?
One of the things I've learned as a founder is whenever you start building, always build in a space with the tailwinds and not headwinds, right? And regulatory risk always presents headwinds, right? So fortunately, in tech space, because it's the revenue and not expenditure for government, they've continuously invested into it, upskilling the personnel, infrastructure, API ecosystem and things like that. So we've always found the tailwinds and not the headwinds. The headwinds exist because of where India is today, our size of our economy, how much money people make. Those are some of the headwinds.
How is that a headwind? I mean, it could only get better from here.
It could only get better from here, right? What I'm saying is it's the reason. For example, Brazil with $15,000 per capita income has roughly 30% of their working age population filing their income tax returns. India only has 2.5%, right? So those are the kind of headwinds I was talking about, because our incomes are low and the tax exemptions are high, which is why not enough people are having to file income tax return. But I think as the economy formalizes, as the income level grows, I think somewhere we have our 2020 kind of catalyst movement waiting, is what I would like to believe, where a lot of people will have to file taxes, and hopefully we'll be the platform of choice for them.
You just made a statement saying that income is low and tax exemptions are high, and therefore not enough people file taxes. That's a good news for most Indians, okay? We don't want to.
Like I said, taxes is a cost of civilization. I know we all don't like taxmen putting their hands into our wallets, but I think it's
No. I think it's. I mean, people have to pay their taxes, but also they should. But also, only when the incomes are high enough.
Right.
If you are sort of spending most of your income in food, then I think it's only fair that there's hardly any taxes. Anyway, anything else that you want to discuss that we haven't already?
One of the reasons Nitin invested in us and we raised from Nitin is that first 15-minute conversation was not around what do you think is going to be the size of the business, or how much money are you making, or why are you this size or not that size. The conversation was around product, and what product are you looking to build, what have you built so far, what do you think you can solve, right? So every time when I meet Nitin, more often than not, I end up showing him what we have built over last year. So he gets a sense of where we are going and what we are looking to build. That's oftentimes the focus of our conversation.
So what is the latest feature that you're showing him? Have we discussed it already?
Yes. So Quicko Pro is something we only launched over last 6-8 months. I met Nitin last year, so I would love to show him.
So what is the one thing that you believed one truth, and then either some conversation or some book you read or whatever, over time you realized that was not true and you've done an about turn?
More importantly for founder, but all of us need a North Star, right? A way to conduct our life, a way to build our business. And that is not easy to find, right? Although we have access to everything on YouTube and otherwise, it's not very easy to find. One thing happened for us is through Zerodha investment, we found that North Star, right? As to how should we conduct ourselves at workplaces, how should we build our businesses, how should we approach our customers, how do we think about ourselves as a team, right? And one of the things that, you mentioned our competitor has a great SEO. And for longest amount of time, I would chase SEO. And I would say, how do we write those garbage articles? How would we write those random articles and get a lot of customers to come onto our platforms? And I tried that for several years, right? It's only until we raised funds from Zerodha and we saw Zerodha is not ranking on any of those traditional SEO keywords, right? If I go search contract note, you would not find a Zerodha article for it, right? So that's one thing I learned, that marketing or SEO cannot be a replacement to really good products. You first have to build products and build product market fit, right? So that's, I think, one most important thing. Up until then, I was extremely, just like any founder would be, very anxious, very insecure about where I would find my customers from, until we raised funds from Zerodha, and we realized that we need to focus on product market fit and build the best products. And oftentimes, of course, you should not rely on customer discovering you. You have to get the word out. And we were fortunately able to do it without spending money by going and integrating with broker partners. So that's one thing that I've learned to organically build business with a very long time horizon. That's something that has really changed over the last 4-5 years.
And now that we have been called a content company rather than a broking company, would you follow that lead to what Zerodha and Rainmatter has done in terms of podcasting?
I met Nitin last year in August, which is where a lot of this was getting kickstarted, a lot of content initiatives. And one thing I remember Nitin saying, Nitin being himself, is, Vishvajit, you go do content for next 1 year and I'll, whatever you need from me, right? Of course, Nitin has different kind of resources available to him. What me and my team did over last 8 months is we participated in Varsity. We did almost 20 video series with Varsity. We participated on Zerodha YouTube channel. We did lengthy video series there. We also built out something called Pocket Money, which is our Instagram handle or YouTube channel, where in unhyphenated manner, without any agenda, we are helping, because our audience is extremely young. Our audience is millennial, borderline Gen Z. And if numbers to be believed, then by 2030, 350 million Gen Zs will be at an earning age. And that is the real audience that we are trying to tap into. So through Pocket Money, we are trying to help them how to be good with their money, but with a little bit of zing of Texas, right? So we are super focused on content. Of course, you might not see us everywhere. I know you said you YouTube searched and did not find us in those searches, but hopefully next time when we meet, you would have seen some of that content and you would come to me with what do you think about our content.
Thank you very much for making the time.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you, Hansi.